go ahead and just make sure that you throw everything away up here or back by the door. So, thank you. The Central Area Cultural Ecosystem. And it's housed at Barnard, but its goal is to support Black homeowners here in the Central District. And if you own homes in other places in the Seattle area, this is also a space that is open and welcome to you as well. Because you know, we all know why we're here. I don't need to necessarily get into that. But I am excited that there has been a rigorous resistance, right? A rigorous resistance to these kinds of changes that we're seeing in our neighborhoods and the Black homeowners, all of you all. We want to build up the power of this organization so much that we can impact policy so that the kind of things that folks are experiencing today can stop, right, ultimately. And I want to go ahead and just briefly introduce the team. If you haven't already registered to take the survey, our homeowner survey, you can do that back there at the table with our research, one of our research heads, Kristen. So Kristen's back there and she can get you registered. Also, I believe AL is back there and can hook you up. Then we have Tarek, who's helping with our sound. We have another Inmate, who is kind of like our leader. And this lovely woman, Ms. Francisca. Also, so this is the folks who make up the infrastructure team for the Black homeowners. We have some amazing things to discuss today and see what's happening with regard to this resistance. And I'm super excited to introduce who our guests are. So first up today, we are going to hear from the Africatown Community Land Trust. And I just want to, even though I'm reading this from paper, I'm super excited, like it's coming from my heart, right? So my joy is coming from the heart, my eyes got to stay on the words. But, so the Africatown Community Land Trust are one of the folks that are leading this kind of renaissance, if you will, this renaissance for social justice with regard to our land. And a land that we want to hold on to as well, right? Homeownership, land ownership, that's how we grow our wealth. That's what we're trying to ensure that we can continue to do it. One of our biggest advocates, of course, is the Africatown Community Land Trust. I know the acronym is ACLT, but I'm dyslexic, and I'm afraid I might say ACLU. And because I've already thought it, it may come out. So I'm going to just say the full name every time. So I hope that doesn't get old, and I hope you don't mind. But we're excited to have them here at our Black Homeowners dinner, and they're going to share information about one of their newest initiatives, the Legacy Homeowner Committee. Now, the purpose of the African Community Land Trust Legacy Homeowner Committee is to serve as a trusted resource for legacy property owners by providing timely, accurate information to help them safeguard their interests, right? And timing is so key. It's so key. This includes identifying and assessing homeowner needs, partnering with organizations already working in this space. The community goal, or excuse me, the primary goal is to develop and implement solutions to meet the community's specific homeowner needs. The LHC, or the Legacy Homeowner Committee, was recently formed, but is quickly receiving a positive response from the community. The goal is to outreach and develop a database of 200 residents during 2023, this summer, the Summer of Soul events. For more information, you can go to their website at Africatown Community Land Trust, or you can ask some of the folks that are going to be speaking today from the Africatown Community Land Trust directly. You can ask them directly. Yes, so can I come? Do you just want to pass my phone?
Hi, I'm Julia Green, Chief of Staff at the Africatown Community Land Trust.
They move to this side.
And partnering within the mission of the Legacy Homeowner Committee, and Caleb is one of those partners, and he's going to tell you about this company. I think she.
So I'm Caleb Jackson. I'm with a company called Public Investment Group, and we are a company that was founded. Our mission is about generational wealth with the Black community. We've taken on many different missions to do this, but our overall encompassing goal is to make sure that the wealth that we do accumulate and gain gets passed down. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my story and some of the problems that we see. I'm going to tell you guys about me, open for questions and comments you can tell me about you. Is that okay? Is that okay? Good. So,
The why is basically because Black homeowners, we do not own the percentage of homes that we should. And those of us who do own homes, we want to make sure that we can keep them. So that's what our community does, is we're gathering resources, trying to figure out what people's needs are, and being able to direct people to those resources. But when I met Caleb, his story is a story that so many Black families have dealt with. Like, okay, you gotta join, you gotta come and share the story because people need to hear it. And also understanding when you know better, you do better, and your family gets to keep some of their wealth. And that's what happened with his family.
So we're not going to talk too much about problems of old, about the problems of old. We know about what redlining did to our community. We know about restrictive covenants that said that we couldn't live or own a property in certain areas unless we were servants. We even know about sundown laws, right? So one thing that we're going to talk about with this presentation is the new problems that we're facing. Now it's really important to focus on those. I'm going to tell my story. So, I'm from South Seattle, and my grandma and my uncle bought a property, a duplex, and amazing house, had lots of memories there. When my grandfather died in '99, and my grandmother, who fought through a lot of different near-death situations, kept trucking, and eventually she had to transition as well. Now, this house is right on MLK and off Dulles, so right off Dulles Street Station. From that property, I can hit a light right off the rock, right? Real close. Now, in about 2017, my uncle reached out to me to help him with selling the property. I was really deep in real estate. I had already owned my house myself, and so he was like, "Hey, help me." I was like, "Cool, thanks." I reached out to a developer who I had met at an event, and I thought that he was my friend, and I had taken the property and told him about it. White developer. He told me that the property was $150,000. Now the property behind it sold for $900,000. My uncle's property was bigger, right? So I give him a call. I said, "Maybe you'll understand. This is the situation," and he doubled down. So I didn't know what I was talking about. He didn't know what I had done in my past, didn't know anything about me. And then he told me that if I get my uncle to agree to the terms, he'd give me a commission of $1,500. Right? So all the stuff those things had did for me, I had great things in my life, but that situation opened my eyes to the reality of what was happening to our community and what was happening. And so that's the first problem, that we have to be aware of our value, we have to know stuff, right? Know what our properties worth, what our communities worth. Now, the second problem is a lot closer to home because, as I told you, my grandma, she fought a lot. There's a lot of situations where the whole family would fly in, sitting next to my grandma, and she was resilient. She would fight that every time. Now, every single time that happened, she told different family members what to do with the house, right? I got 8 uncles and aunts. If you ask me what my grandma specifically told me to do with the house, you would get 8 different answers. It was, hey, grandma said the money should go to the grandkids. Grandma said her children should get it. Grandma says, since I ain't got no money, I get the house, right? It's a whole bunch of different answers, right? But that problem we can't blame on white folks. That problem's on us, right? We have to know how to steward and protect our property and have a succession plan on how to do that. And so those are 2 properties we have. So this is the property, before we go to the next slide, this is the property what it was, right? We ended up finding somebody who would buy it for what the prices were. Move to the next slide. And that's what it is now. They built 9 units on that property. Right? By my estimates, the developer made $2.3 million. That's after purchasing and after construction. Now, there's a lot of animosity in my family based on the sale of that property because people didn't think everybody got paid, but not much they should have got, right? About $50,000 a piece. If we had developed that ourselves, it's right around $375,000 a piece. How many of you know that $375,000 is a lot less animosity than $20,000 or $50,000, right? And so it's important that we know that family money and never mixes well. But if you have a contract in there, it mixes a little bit better. Right? So that's the vision, a vibrant and thriving Black community for homeownership. And to do that, the new problems that we're facing, the new ones that we need to be aware of and be vigilant against fighting, is making sure that we know our worth and our value, and then also taking action in instinct with our family. And then questions, comments, anything? My man right here.
What are the solutions that you suggest for that type of situation, like as far as the estate planning and succession planning?
So with our community, those are the things that we're doing. We're putting together a list of people to do estate planning, 8 types of resources. This company, he actually helps people. So we're giving lists of who you can come to learn and ask questions and have someone support you through different processes. Because I know when we see that development cost was at $2.3 million, I know in all our minds we don't have $2.3 million. So how can we develop our property? But there's people out there that's doing it. So we do have resources. I see Jebediah is back here. Jebediah, he's a developer. So there are resources that we can come to, and maybe we can have people help us find the money that we need to develop our own properties.
Exactly. And also, Rocket Lawyer, you can get on there right now and get a basic will and trust in order. It won't be great. I suggest going to a real estate attorney, but at least get something in writing, right? Anything ain't the best. When it comes to succession plan, anything is better than nothing, right?
I just wanted to say, how do we get access to the resources that you're speaking of, and then how do we be able to say, I have resources that would be able to contribute, because I personally understand going to something similar, and I just be here to help give out that type of information, because it's personal, you know what I mean? So I just want to be able to help, and then also know the resources.
So we have a list here, so you can take your information and look at it.
Thank you.
Does African Town Land Trust have the ability to partner with people that own property? Suppose I have a property that I want, that's a house on it, they remove the house, and we partner for, if it's going to be 4 units, you all own 2 units, and I retain ownership of 2 units.
We're working on that now. That's what this committee was formed for. That's what we're trying to develop. And it may not be as it could be up to but that's really the goal of this, is to figure out. There's a mix of everything. And I don't know how much of you guys know, so we're a land trust. And land trust, what happens is you keep your home, but you don't own the land. You can will your home, but the land stays, and that's what helps keep the cost down for the homeowner. And so that's something where it's educating people on what a land trust is, how it works, and so then there will be a mix. Maybe some will be in land trust, some will be straight out ownership, because some people are like, no, I want my whole property. So then understanding that. And also understanding tax laws that if you make under a certain amount of money and you're over, I think it's 61 age now, that you can get a discount on your property taxes. So different ways to help you still stay in your home. But yes, we are working on that, Jen.
The exact solution we want.
Can you talk a little bit more about the land trust? I said you own your home, but you don't own the land. So what does that look like? Because I'm just wondering a little bit more clarity around that.
So one of the ways to keep costs down, well, the one driver is property taxes, right? And we know in the central area house, property taxes are skyrocketing. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people end up selling, is they can't continue to pay the property taxes. So across the country, land trusts have been around for like 70 years, but they're gaining a lot of traction now. So a lot of communities, they're forming those. And so you as the owner, you would own your house, but the land stays as part of the land trust. So you're paying taxes on the homes, and the land trust pays the taxes on the land. So it keeps the costs down. And then there's formulas. So if you want to sell, it's simply, you've got to keep it for so many years. When you get ready to sell, you will sell at whatever percent. You may not get the full market share. You still will get some growth, but it's not going to be the market share. The market rate, because that's how then we're able to sell it again at a lower rate to keep Black people being able to buy homes.
How can we be the land trust owner and they be renting the land from us versus giving them the right to have a land trust? How do you work? How does that work?
You could actually then start the land trust, and there's work that has to go with that. Like if you have like acreage and you want to create a land trust, is that kind of?
Well, I'm just saying if instead of turning over the land to somebody else, have them renting the land from you, and you still own the land, but you're renting the land from them. What is that called?
So, well, we should talk about it. What would be the advantage to renting the
Being
land?
able to keep it for generational wealth,
Right, so you want to keep your land but rent the home. Is that what you're saying?
keep the land and rent whatever.
And keep letting it go.
Just make sure that I'm not turning over the land. I want to be able to keep the land and be able to have it versus just having a house and paying rent and taxes.
Right, so then you can start a land trust, is what I would say. Because you want to hold the land and then just keep selling the home.
Well, we can, otherwise we're still giving it away. I want to be able to hold on to the property, not just be a renter. Is that?
Understood, but with the land trust, you would still own the home, and you can sell the home, you just can't sell the land. So the reverse of that, you would keep the land, and someone else would buy the home, they're gonna get the appreciation on the home, not 100%, and then they would sell it, you would still own that land, but you're not taking that.
Okay.
I understand kind of what she's saying, because when the developers come in and they want to buy, they really want your land, and they do not want your home. So when you're saying that you all take care of the land and we keep the house, I think she's wanting to know what is the difference in that? What other benefits would we receive by not having the land? It's by selling the whole thing. But
Well, you're staying there, you're paying less
Right.
in taxes, right, because you're not paying property tax on the land, so that's one of the advantages of it.
I think, sorry, I was going to kind of get something. There are, and I'm kind of like a student of this, that's why I kind of want to mention it, is there's a lot of different models with houses, co-ops, there's land trust, there is second loans and taking liens on the house. There's a bunch of different models, but I think that to answer your question, the difference is when a developer comes in, they are taking the land and everything like it's theirs. You maintain no ownership at all, period, nothing. And with, and I'm sorry to speak on African Town, but I have looked into this thing a lot, but it's not, you still maintain some ownership, right? So that is the difference between a developer and a land trust.
And I just wanted to say something about what I learned about taxes, right? So the taxes go off the zoning. Like that's the reason why everybody that has a single family home in the central district is getting taxed at a multi-family, like an apartment or a triplex rate. Because like a lot of people, like my grandfather, he's 92. We ain't getting no additions to our, I'm trying to save the house first, right? So, but how come the taxes are like this in the value they send them every day calling like, oh, your property worth $800,000. The property's worth that, right? So what he's saying is the tax is the taxes, the most of the tax money is gonna come from the property, but also that's where the value is. Because you ain't fixed your house, you ain't done nothing to your house. How can your house went up and more money? It's the property's value because the zoning is changed and you get taxed on the maximum potential of your property. And what that is now is multifamily, right? So it's not, so that's how, you know, I was trying to figure out like how is it going and how we getting pushed out. You know what I mean? But like you said, like the taxes go up so high, like if you don't fix income, you can't afford it. And if you don't know that you can get exempt taxes, you know, on your taxes, you know, which is a percentage. It's not like you just don't get it. But it's better, you know what I'm saying, and never do tax deferral. Tax deferral means that they're just putting it to the side and then they're going to give it to your son or your granddaughter or whatever, and then they're going to have to pay, then they're going to leave, and it's going to be a fight. And because I seen it happen, I seen like a standoff at people's house because the police is trying to take them off their property and they don't understand why. Like, how can you even do that? Because it's not right. We all know it's not right. But there was somewhere that we got tricked and didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say that is the value is in the property, and you should research it, like you're saying, to see the different ways that you might be able to keep or benefit, or maybe borrow some money towards it to fix your house up a little bit, or put an AD, or whatever it is. You know, just do the research. You know, I've been doing it, but I do know that that's where the value and the money and the tax and everything comes from, is the zoning and the I just wanted to share.
Yeah, and there's a couple things on that. So one, it's not that we got tricked, okay? We didn't know, and that's our problem, right? This is what we're here to do. We have to educate ourselves. And that is our problem. Like, look at this room. This is a free opportunity. People would have to pay money to come to Case 21 to get this information, and the room is not full. So that's our problem, is that we don't take the time to learn. And that's what we have to do. So it's not hidden, it's there. It's maybe complicated, to make it hard for you to find that information, but it is there, and that's what we're trying to do, is put all of the information together so there can be a one-stop shop where people can get the information to learn. And also, like what you're saying is true, except for we're not tricked. We got to put in the time. We just have to.
Well, I don't want to say it's like the information you guys are giving is good because we can trust it. Because I call professionals, lawyers, everything, and they'll straight up lie. Like I know I read the law book, you know, and they'll tell you, no, you're not right. You know, and then when you recite the law, then what you know, then they say, oh, well, we're not doing business with you. So you know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by trick. That doesn't mean like, oh, because you know, but when a professional lie, they can get in trouble for that, and I know that. And I wouldn't say I'm going to report you or nothing, but they immediately say I'm not doing business with you. That's an email, so it's on documented, so they can say they can just tell me what they just told me, which was a lie. That's what I'm saying. So be careful what you do.
Information is right here. Yeah, this is Taylor's information up here. Please give a round of applause for ACL.
I was getting heated just listening to it. I do want to, as kind of like a transition, this model of homeownership is really effective. And it's being done by home site. So Homesite owns several properties, and they own land, and people are able to buy affordable homes. Like, to me, I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was before my son was born, and that's almost 20 years. But Homesite was one of the folks that helped grease the road to gentrify the Central District. And so Homesite's able to do that, make their homes affordable. And it makes their homes affordable to people who are looking to live in places like, Madison Park area, Madrona, right? So these people are able to come here, live here. I'm just saying, I'm glad Black folks are doing it. I'm glad we can make the money doing it. Next up, we have another guest. This next guest, he is really amazing. He's a very sweet spirit, and generous soul, and a very busy person. And it's Mr. Ken Hutchinson. Ken is a homeowner, and he lives between here and Berkeley, California. He has been attending Case 21 events since we began, so long ago, wasn't that long ago, but he comes to all of our events, one of the many faces that we get a chance to see. And he is an incredible contributor to those conversations. One of the ways that he's incredible to those conversations is that he has these experiences with accessing particular services. And he's here today to talk to you about what that can look like. And what that includes is free home repair programs in Seattle that have worked with him through weatherization, the weatherization program, the staff generations, minor home repair, and Habitat for Humanity. So if y'all could give up some love for Mr. Ken Hutchins.
Stand so folks don't see me shaking. Thank you. My homeownership journey began in 2017 when I purchased my home. My home was built in 1911, which equals work. When a tradesperson comes in your home and says your home has good bones, that's code for me working. I started, actually I was just in the public library going in, and there were those little flyer boards. And I saw one for the City of Seattle weatherization program. And I said, this looks interesting. So I applied. Fortunately, I was accepted. I got a little excerpt from my acceptance letter here. Blah, 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 blah. We receive grant funds to provide these free improvements to your home. It will cost you nothing more than your cooperation. And I said, I can do that. It starts with an energy audit. A gentleman comes in to your home. He sets this apparatus up at the door. It's got a big fan to it. It's how they measure how much air leaks into your home. And believe it or not, if you have enough leaks in your home, I've come to learn it's almost equivalent of like having a hole in your wall. And no one would accept that if they saw a hole in their wall. But if you have a little leak here, a little leak by the door there, you don't notice it. So we had the energy audit. They come up with a plan, and they find a contractor for you. And that's another big thing. As a homeowner, you're looking at all these repairs you need to do. You're trying to prioritize what needs to happen now, what can be done later, how much does it cost. And then after you accomplish all that, then you have to find someone. And now you're trying to talk to friends, Yelp reviews. It's a daunting task, and the worst thing that can happen is you find someone, you pay them good money up front, and then it works either shoddy or they walk off the job, and then what's your recourse? So the beauty of these organizations I'm going to talk about, the weatherization program, sound generations, and Habitat, these are all established folks. They do quality work, and you can have faith that the work is going to be done right. So some of the items of weatherization was able to help me with. I got new weather equipment around all my doors. They installed a really nice bathroom thing to help, take the moisture out of the house. They're all about keeping your heat in and keeping the cold out. That's the weatherization program in that shit. I have an attic, so they put a new closure in there with better seal again to keep warm air in. One of the big things they did, I live in a one bedroom. I have an unfinished basement, incredibly cold, cement foundation. So all that cold air is leaking into the upstairs. They took insulation into my basement, all through the basement. This almost looks like foil, but it's not foil. But it's so much more energy efficient now. Another thing I got was a ductless heater. Anybody remember the ductless heater? Complete game changer. I have not used my electric furnace since I got that ductless heater. And the beauty of it is in the summer, it doubles as AC. I didn't even know that. AC changed my life. It's like the internet. I don't even know how I lived before I had that. So I'm so grateful for that. It was over $10,000 worth of work to my home, and I paid zero. Can't beat that. And it's sometimes based on the age and the performance of your appliances. They'll even replace some of your appliances. Refrigerator, for instance, hot water heater, things of that nature. I didn't make that cut, but those things are out there too. I wanted you to know that. The second group I want to speak about is sound generation minor home repair. And the title kind of says it's a minor home repair. It's not like the weatherization program, and it's not on the level of habitat that I'm going to talk to last. But it's still a great program. They mostly help, they have a plumbing, they help with plumbing, they snake drains for you and things of that nature. They do a little bit of carpentry. They will patch your porch, but they're not going to build it. That's not what they do. The one thing that I was really fortunate with them is Francesca mentioned, I'm traveling between Seattle and Berkeley. I come home to Seattle. As I'm coming home, I'm thinking, I think next time I leave, I'm going to shut the water off. You know what this is. Come in, water heater failed, mold, the whole 9 yards. It was terrible. Had to do the remediation, insurance claim, yada, yada, yada. Part of that I had to get a new water heater. So I'm calling around, Home Depot, Lowe's, all the usual suspects, and they have what they call a package. Well, they will bring the hot water out and install that. Basically, they want anywhere from $1,000 to $1,600. I call Sound Generations. They put the hot water heater in. They did it all to code, and not everybody's going to do this code. The whole 9 yards, again, $0. In the old days, they had the old days. Formerly, Sound Generations would charge you $10 an hour. Have a plumber come out for $10 an hour? You can't. They won't come there for cost for that. So, and then they have to allow them to put in a donation. So, but I guess the powers that be felt that was double dipping. These people already getting a salary, so to charge people for those services, they thought, wasn't cool. So now they don't charge anything. As long as you qualify for the program, they come out, they do the work. Again, if you want to make a donation, you can. And they don't even accept tips. I tried. They don't even take a tip. So, and also on the side, all these programs have income qualification guidelines, as you can imagine. For the most part, they all start about $7,000 a year gross for a single occupant. And if it's 2 occupants, again, the threshold goes up. And all this we have links to, and I have information. If anybody wants any of this information, I'm happy to stay after and hand it out and answer questions. So, and then when I was working with Sound Generations, I don't know how came up with one and said, the fire department, you can get smoke detectors installed by the fire department for little cost. I'm like, really? So, call the fire department, not the emergency line, call the fire department. They come out, all the firemen out to my house. I'm like, why are you all here? And the captain, if we get a call, we gotta go. I said, okay, that makes sense. But anyway, they put the alarm in, it was all good. Now the last one I want to speak to is habitat for humanity. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with habitat for humanity. talking about people who do good work. We're not going to take advantage of it. This is Jimmy Carter's people. You can just know that Habitat for Humanity is going to do solid work for you. Now, the way their fee structure works, whatever amount of work they put into your house, they put a lien on your house. And I know for some people, oh, lien, that's not good. But, oh, you're familiar with it. So at 10 years of the day, that lien goes away. So say they do $10,000 worth of work. After 10 years, you owe nothing. And what it's to do is to try to prevent it. They don't want to do work where somebody's going to flip the house in your land. So that just protects them. But now the beautiful thing too is, say you're 9, you just have to sell, you decide to sell. Whatever that amount you accrued on day one, there's no interest, there's no fees, there's no penalties. All they ask is for that amount of money that they put into your dwelling. And again, they do absolutely great work. They have volunteers. I mean, they're going to keep their costs down. They have volunteers. It's an amazing program. And I'm just going to list some of the things they were able to do from both. And I was so lucky. I had Habitat in my home. They were finishing up. And one of the people said, I could listen, you know, after a year, you can apply again. I'm like, what? I can do it twice? And so, needless to say, Habitat's been to my home twice. I'm very grateful. I'm sorry?
For the same 10 years.
Yeah, so now, they put another lien on it. This was a small one, but they did place a small lien on it. And I'm glad you asked that because they do have, I call it 3 levels of assistance. They have a program where you pay a $50 processing fee. And that's usually for work that can be done in one day with a couple of workers. They won't put a price threshold on what that work consists of, but it's, I'll call it minor work. Then there's one I did where it's a larger amount, and they place the lien. So a couple of days ago, as I'm preparing to speak to you folks, I called to get fresh information. Well, they have a brand new program now. It's a complete grant. They will do the work, no lien, no charge. This grant won't last forever. I was told to let people know while the money's available. So if you have any thought of doing this, and I have information to share with you, contact numbers, business cards, this is something you want to get on today. At least start the process of looking at it. So Habitat, I have a fence yard, and the posts were getting out. You know, they've been ground for a while with moisture. So they came out, they repaired the posts. It was very labor intensive because they had to cut the fence, put the post in. I'm trying to help out. I'm in there with that breaker bar. That's a good name for it, the breaker bar. I'm in there trying to break this stuff up. So they did that for me twice. They repaired my front porch, my kitchen nook, which was added onto my house because at some point, I think we started out the outside porch. So the foundation wasn't good. It was starting to sink. So we poured a new foundation for that. And then to protect it from moisture, we dug a trench to funnel the moisture away. We did moss removal for my roof. One of my gutters wasn't performing right, so we changed the angle, meaning they. I had a couple of tree stumps. They ground those for me. I got to replace the kitchen light. I had a new fluorescent light placed in my basement. Missing tiles placed in my bathroom. A new handrail from my main floor to my basement. New motion sensor in the backyard. And one of the things they were super helpful with, they handled all the permits. I don't know if anybody here has ever tried to get a permit. If you're not a trades person, it is not easy. Especially during COVID, you couldn't even go talk to someone. It's all supposed to be done online. Them handling the permits, I don't think I could have done it myself. So that was awesome. And I also have a list, and you can go online and see what they do and don't do. That's not something etched in stone. So you can always try to ask for something, and I feel like if I don't ask for enough to where they tell me no, I haven't done my job. So I tried to get a new kitchen floor, but it didn't work. And the way it did work is it is a repair. They don't do a static thing. So you're like, well, I don't like the color of the paint in my house. They're not going to do that. But if something's broken, they will work with you in order to fix it. And again, I just want to say thank you for the time. I really appreciate the organization. being here. I mean, what you do for the community is amazing. Grateful for you and the Case 21 team. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Oh, one question?
Yes, I got the chance to use the city of Seattle, and I got a $10,000 grant. But the gentleman who was over the program could only find somebody to, he said he couldn't find anybody to use all the 10,000, he used 5,000. And he came out and really did a crappy job of putting up a brick around the edge of my house with a piece of metal that looks like crap. And it was kind of funny because I had some projects that I could really use that 10,000, the other 5,000 with, and he said he couldn't find anybody to do the work. I'm telling you, because you say you work for U City?
No.
Oh.
I'm aware of that grant program. Now, is this a city person?
This was a city person, and it was very disappointing because he let me know that they can put this little cap of bricks around my house and a little piece of metal that's rickety rackety. It's really tacky. And then he said I can't find anybody else to come and do the small projects that I could have actually used around my house. And so there was 5,000 that was left out there that I would have appreciated having had somebody use around the property. But the city, Eric, I can't call his name right offhand. I have his name though. But he did. I was very disappointed with that. I did get I had Habitat for Humanity out to my house.
Okay. How'd that work out?
They did a beautiful job. They put a roof on. They put gutters on. They came back and they put some bars in my bathroom and bars on my steps. And they took some time to repair some minor things that needed to be done inside. But I was disappointed with the city.
I'll tell you, so I think I'm aware of that program, the 10,000 grant. The weaponization is a little bit different, and I was fortunate that I had a great, I'll say, city person, general contractor, and then they put out bids to people they work with, and these people have a vested interest in doing a good job because they want to get more business, and they know when they get a check from the city, it's going to clear, so they want to keep that relation. They have every incentive to do a good job. Moreover, when my job was done, the city came back to do a systems check to make sure I was happy with everything. So, unfortunately, my experience was different than yours, but I'm not city, so unfortunately, I can't speak to that. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Bart.
Thank you so much, Jen, for presenting. So next up, we're going to speak about property taxes, and I'm going to present on this. We had a meeting with King County's Tax Assessor's Office, and we wanted to relay some of that information back to y'all.
So, well, everybody knows who Case 21 is, so I don't want to say a long time. So, let's see, we have a script here. Starts out with a description of Case 21, but we all know what that is. So, I'll just skip to, just because we're a little short on time. Francesca and I, after our last meeting, Black Homeowner, we took the feedback, which was that folks were really interested in really getting a handle on this property tax situation. We met with city folks at the King County Tax Assessor's Office, did a deep dive on just how property taxes work, and primarily Francesca did a lot of legwork to put together a primer on how to understand our property taxes. So our hope is that the information that we're building, it'll go into a database that folks in our network can access and will. As we come to these meetings, we want to continue to have these conversations about property taxes and begin to learn collectively and ask questions and do all that kind of stuff. So today we're going to go through the property tax primer that Francesca put together, and she and I are going to kind of tag team this. So, yeah.
So just so y'all know, everything that we say today, we're going to email out to you, so make sure you sign in with KDAL. We have your email, so we can send you a version of this presentation so you don't have to be fiercely jotting down notes. We also have a printed copy of our property tax guide. We have about 15 copies, but we can also email that out. Okay, so each state in the United States has its own tax code, modified from the Internal Revenue Code. The Internal Revenue Code is enacted by Congress and is administered by the IRS. So this means that each state has its own key terms and definitions to go through. So as I speak on this, you'll get more familiar with Washington State Tax Code. Unlike other states, no, please go back. Unlike other states, Washington does not have a graduated income tax, as I'm sure you all are aware. That's why we have high sales tax and high property taxes. And property tax does not correlate to income, right? So you could be a low income and have high property tax. So in this next slide, we're going to show you a video that kind of just talks you through how it works, how it's calculated.
Taxes are based on your home's value. What you don't know is that an increase in your home's value doesn't necessarily mean your taxes will go up. To explain, let's take a look at how your property taxes are calculated. Imagine there's a town that only has 3 homes, and they're each worth a different amount. The total cost to provide all of the town's services is $1,200. This is collected through property taxes. Each homeowner pays property taxes based on their home's assessed value. So we take the total cost of services and divide it by the total property value. This tax rate is applied to all the houses to get enough money to pay for the town's services. Each homeowner pays according to the assessed value of their home. And every 4 years, the houses are reassessed. Let's say all 3 properties have gone up equally in value. The total cost of services hasn't changed, but the total property value has increased. When this happens, there will be a decrease in the tax rate. Now, when we apply that new rate on all the homes, everyone still pays the same. Now, let's say another 4 years has gone by, and these homes are reassessed. During this time, the house on the right gains more market value than the other 2. The total value of all the homes have increased, which means the town has to calculate a new tax rate. With this new tax rate, the first 2 homes will actually pay less than the home on the right that was reassessed at a higher value. Since the cost of services hasn't changed, the town doesn't need to collect more property taxes on the whole. However, since property taxes are based on the home's value, taxes for each individual home could potentially go up or down based on the rest of the homes. So, what happens when the cost to provide services goes up? Well, it means more property taxes need to be collected from every home, and a new tax rate is calculated. To get the new rate, we take that amount that the town now needs and divide it by all the property values. The new rate is applied to all the homes, and now everyone has to pay the new tax amount to continue to fund the town's services. So, let's review. 1, property taxes are based on the assessed value of the home. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same. 2, if all assessments do not go up equally, there's a redistribution of the tax. 3, if the town's cost to provide services increases, the municipality may choose to increase the tax rate. When this happens, everyone pays their share of that increase. And that explains the relationship between property value and property taxes.
So this is a really good sort of description of how it works in theory, principle, right? When we get down to how it actually functions in real life, what's important to understand is that every level of government in the state, county, and city uses a similar system. And so where you live, even within a city, there are different tax districts. And so the city will use a similar formula based on the cost of services that are being taxed for your home. A formula like this, okay? The county will use a similar formula based on the services the cost of services they're providing, and then the state does the same. For whatever area you're in, all three of those numbers get put together. That's called a mill rate. So they're taking all of those different formulas, putting them all together into one formula, and coming up with the tax rate for your particular home. Okay, so let's see. What's next? Okay, yeah. So taxing districts, we're gonna taxing districts are a little hard to explain just by using words. So there are a couple of tools that we have that will help visualize it. And so I'll run the thing and Francesca will kind of walk us through.
So we're going to show you a tool called Parcel Viewer. That's really helpful for looking up information about your home. But before we do that, I'm just going to explain what a taxing district is. So a taxing district refers to geographic boundaries of a municipality, such as like the state, county, city, town, port district, or school district, and or other public services such as sound transit authority, water sewer district, cemetery, fire department, etc. So these municipalities are corporations that have the authority to impose tax burdens to obtain revenue to make their services available to y'all. So there are 165 taxing districts in King County alone. Taxing districts may share geographical overlap depending on the region. For example, suburban areas have multiple school districts under one municipality, but you aren't taxed for both, you're taxed for one or the other, right? So you can see what districts apply to you and your property online at Parcel Viewer. So we're going to show you that now. So this is the interface of Parcel Viewer. We're going to send you all these resources in your email as well. But as you see, there's a map of Seattle. And you can search, you can zoom in with the plus or minus. Or,
What is the interface?
oh, interface is just the website, how you navigate it.
Okay.
So, thank you. It's just what the website looks like. It's how you navigate the website.
We don't know that it works.
Yeah. I'll keep it safe. Good reminder. Right. So if you see where the mouse is and you use toggling, you just put clicking on the plus and minus sign to zoom in and out.
You can scan over the map with your mouse and move around on it. And so this is King County's website, right? So basically what you see here is that the county government is basically in all yellow. It's everything that is included in this website.
Right. But even more useful, you can search your personal address and it will come up. So you go to this toolbar, that's that search bar, and it's going to type in the address for one line. And if y'all haven't visited, please do. Gallery is open. It's on 24th Avenue. Search. Maybe take out the half. Right, it pops up. It's asking you which one. Is it South Avenue or Avenue? You click on it. Yes, just give it a second to load. And then that gives you your property information. There it is. So it pops up with some information about who is the owner, where you're located, the value of the home, the address, the lot area, your levy code. And then if you click on property report, right there, it gives you even more information about your home, right? You scroll down, it gives you a picture, square footage, but also it shows you this graph here, which tells you where your tax dollars are going, right, according to your taxing districts. right? So you can see it on the city level, that's orange, county, state schools, the police, SMPD, port, I know I've heard of those. And what is voter approved, right? So 60% of this is voter approved. Right. So as you wonder, where are my taxes going? You can look at this. There's year by year as well. You can compare it. And you should know that your property taxes have a 1% cap for how much they can go up year to year, but that does not include voter-approved levies. Right? So if you vote for something, a lot of people want nicer bike lanes or nicer parks, really consider it because that could be what's raising your property taxes. So I'm going to pass the mic to Aaron. Any question?
Yes, dog parks, are they included in the assessment of one's property? Like legacy properties that like around the city, but like a dog park, it's not. Is that something that
So they're actually, your dog parks apply to your assessed value of your property. Does it impact it?
Yes.
So usually the appraiser will come to your home, they're required to every 6 years, to come assess the value of your home. And usually what they're assessing for are like waterfront views, the quality of the home, the market value. So I guess in a way, that dog park could raise it, right? If the area is more popular because it's dog park, and that raises the market value. So even in this area like the CD, right, it's very popular because we're gentrified. And some of those values are going up because the home market values of your neighbors are going up. Right. And some of that you can also read in the property tax code. Any other questions before we continue? Yes.
I was going to piggyback on what Karen said, so just an FYI, there is now an effort to build a dog park at Powdernet Park.
Oh my God.
It was on a list of 32, including Homer Harris and Dr. Blanche Louisiana Park. Now it's on a list of 9, they're choosing 2. Seattle Parks and Recreation has done a study, they have an online survey that's open to anyone through the end of this month to give their feedback. But there are a lot of people who are voting to create a dog park at Powdernet Park.
So we can have that. Yes, let's connect after this. There's an online survey basically to see if there will be a dog park created at Powdernet in the recent until the end of the month. So let's please connect and we can email out that survey. Yes.
So, I know we talked about it our last meeting, but is there some information we can get for people that are not signed up for the senior discount program for their taxes, please?
Yeah, we're gonna hit tax exemptions right after this. No, but good, that's good. Great segue. But before we get there, we're gonna show you one more tool called LocalScape. And this is a great one too. Yes, so this is LocalScape. What makes this even more useful, I think, than Parcel Viewer is that you can search not only by the city, but by your neighborhood, right? So in the toolbar at the upper right-hand corner, you see neighbors. Yeah, you can search by multiple different geographical regions. You can choose neighborhood and search central district.
So, if we did a search on central district, I'm just gonna change the neighborhood really quick so you can see a change. So I just changed it to Rare Beach, so you can see, you can target what neighborhood you wanna look at and get data for on LocalScape. So we'll just come back to this.
Yeah, so and it was just in comparison with Rainier Beach. But if you go back to Central District, you see it highlights it in red. Give it a second to load and it will show up with the map view. But on the left-hand side, it gives you information on the data for that region. So you have population by gender, you have appraised values, so there are roughly 13,000 properties in Central District that are worth total almost 18.5 billion.
You said 18.5 what?
Billion,
Okay.
yeah. Yes. So this is really helpful for knowing your home's worth, because you can see how much everyone else's is worth. This is public information. You can see median sale prices by quarter. You can see the number of permits that are being passed out within the last 12 months by percentage. And you can also look up information. So say you want to know, is this a good area to raise a family? What do the school districts look like? So you can hit the education tab right there. And it gives you the ranking of the schools in the area. 1 out of 10, 1 being not so great. Right? Then you can also look up information about your property. So you can type in your address. We're going to hit the one of our address right now. And click View Properties. It zooms in to your property, gives you similar information to parcel bureau, but if you scroll down, it tells you you have 2 single-family residencies, what year was built, that similar information. You can also look up tax information. So if you go to the tax tab, you can type in your address again. Right, it tells you your current tax amount for 2023, and also your previous property taxes. And this is broken down year by year, so you can see what you paid in 2021, 2022, 2023, and where it's going. And this is even more detailed, I think, than parcel viewer in terms of the taxing district breakdown, which is like the colors. The colors coordinate to where your taxpayer dollars are going. Okay. Any questions so far about local state?
That proposition, that's something that's being voted on that could go on taxes, right?
Yes. There is a proposition, proposed tax changes for 2024. Proposition 1. That's something that hasn't been enacted yet, and it says how much it would raise your property taxes by. Right? $160 roughly. Any other questions? Okay. So next up, we're going to talk about the senior tax exemption. Any is represented on this.
So the senior tax exemption is a part of the state of Washington's tax relief program. The development program freezes the assessed value of the property and reduces the property value. If the market value falls below the assessed value, the appraiser chooses the lesser value. So if your property is assessed at $1 million and you get a reduction, but then it goes down to $500,000, and the assessment of $500,000 is the lower, then that's what they will choose. Let's see. And to qualify for the exemption, you have to be at least 61 years or older, have an annual income. So there are 2 figures for this. I'm going to read the first one and we'll talk about it. Have an annual income of $58,423. And there's a list of things to deduct from income that can bring the annual income down as well. So basically like that. Similar to tax deduction. You can add expenses. There's a new bill, House Bill 1355, that has already passed. The House of Senate, which means it's now law. which raised the income threshold up to $72,000. Right. Yeah, so $72,000 plus any qualifying expenses, right, can be applied to your exemption status.
But what's considered poverty in the city of Seattle?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't have that specific information right now, but I know I think the city has got to pay I think somewhere around $90,000.
Yeah,
It should be equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying if you make less than 100, you're considered low income. That should match whatever the standard is in Seattle. So that being at a lower value, it's kind of catch-22.
Right.
Yeah.
When does the new bill go into effect?
You mean this one here?
Yeah.
Well, it's already been passed. I think it's currently in effect now. So if it passed, you probably check with the tax assessor's office, about the exemption program, and they will tell you, where it's at. But I think based on our meeting, that it's actually in effect now. Yeah.
How long is the exemption? What is it, complete 100% exemption or percentage? What percentage?
It's a percentage. It's a percentage based on your income. Based on your income. And it doesn't cost to apply. So it does not cost to apply. Read it. Do you have a comment?
No, I was saying if people need like a simple sheet so people can really understand more about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. The link here at the bottom, that we can also email out to you if you have your email, gives you a whole breakdown of all the requirements and application process as well. So please make sure you have your email so we can give you these resources. But yeah, if you want to take a picture and get some bits,
I got one.
So the next tax exemption that we wanted to cover is the 3-year home improvement exemption. So since Penn just presented on how you can improve your home, you should know that if you report your claim of all the improvements that you're going to make with the tax assessor's office, you can get an exemption, and it will freeze the amount that you pay in taxes by reducing the home appraisal value. So say you want to remodel your home, it's worth $500,000, and it goes up to being worth $1 million. Then this exemption is for $150,000. It's for 30% of the original home's value. So they'll take that off of the new value, which is $1 million, and they'll have your property value be at $850,000. And it'll stay like that for 3 years. Right? So, but you have to claim the exemption with the tax assessor's office before construction starts. Before. Yeah, because they make it hard, right? before it starts, before it completes, on there it says before it completes. Okay, before it completes, but honestly, just get out of it because you don't want to start construction. That's like kind of right. So make sure you call that number and you claim it before. Any questions about this exemption? Yes.
So if you have a new roof, that's not a remodel, that's just like an upgrade. A remodel would have to be something like, I'm doing my kitchen over or the bathroom over, is that right?
Yeah, I think it has to be more extensive than just a roof repair. I think it has to raise the home's value in a certain way, but I'm not sure what their distinction is for that. So if you have questions, I would call to make sure.
So for people that are unfamiliar with this whole process or not even comfortable with the computer, right? We got elders. Is there somebody or a way we can set it up where somebody from one party goes to them and helps them go through the process or explain the process? Because I live with other people, I live on 27, and I know that I wouldn't just trust anybody to give my information like this. I would trust somebody from one party to be giving my information, but developers be trying to get it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I can't let that happen.
Right.
Right? So
So we need to consider some of the elders that are in the community that aren't familiar or comfortable or not gonna say out loud like me, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would want to have somebody or set up a little group, even if it was, young people that need community service hours from Garfield, that are really smart, getting good grades, that they can come and create a relationship with the elders and, help them through this process, right? And we create, it's a twofold benefit, because the young folks are developing a relationship with our elders that keeps them here longer.
Right.
Right now, I want to stay in Portugal.
Yeah.
Right? Right. And I'm just saying, if there's something like that, because I know the show, she gonna not do it because she does not know what to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Is this for, ownership only for rental property?
Yeah, so,
We can talk after. And when we office hours, so I'm saying to her point, we need to create like office hours and have like day where people can come in and conversation.
I will say the capacity for that's really hard because, like you said, like volunteers, the problem with volunteers is that, like, I'm sure presenting this stuff, you learn a lot. There's a bunch of different interventions that can happen. So it's kind of like the person who's going to help the community, you have to be a specialist. And there's only so many of them, you know, so
Right.
it's like you want to, but there's just, you know.
Well, are there exceptions? Because I think I have exceptions.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
And
it's,
so, no, you can educate me.
yeah.
So that I can get that conversation, you believe I'll be trying to say my granny's house, my baby's house, and then share information with anybody, because that's just who I am.
And that's what we're doing right now. So,
We definitely are in conversation with King County's tax assessor's office to try to make sure that those resources are available to y'all, right? So we have phone numbers that can put you directly in touch with the chief appraiser. And we want to be able to help with those questions. I think Caleb is right, there's a certain amount of capacity, because even so, this took me months to learn. Right? But I want to be able to share that information, and we did used to have fairness drop-in hours. Maybe we can talk to ACLT about trying to combine verses to have more office hours. Oh, yeah, but this is for Columbia.
Okay, but also, I want to say that, I work for King County doing housing, and so I'm familiar with all those paying people's rent. And so I was looking up the parcels, I'm very familiar with a lot of this stuff, I'm asking questions, so, for the sake of it, right?
Yes.
But, so I probably wouldn't be that difficult a person, and I think they should give you some money to hire somebody like me for a part-time.
You're gonna have to pick that up with John Wilson.
I have no problem doing that, you know I don't.
Okay, any questions about home improvement exemption? Okay. So it is gonna cover some new legislation.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so just recently, the state of Washington passed a new law. And let's see, the state of government established a fund to be administered by the Washington State Housing Finance Commission that provides loans to first-time homeowners affected by the state's discriminatory housing policies and practices with down payments, closing costs, construction capital, redevelopment costs, and capital growth for nonprofit organizations. Okay, so just to sort of, and I'll run through this and then we'll go back and then we'll kind of pick it apart. Okay, so and for growth for nonprofit organizations working with impacted populations. Okay, eligibility requirements will be have a household income at or below the area median income, and we just had a conversation about that. Be a first-time home buyer, be a Washington, and this is important, be a Washington State resident who was a resident before the enactment of the federal Fair Housing Act, or was or would have been excluded from homeownership and in Washington State by a racially restrictive covenant on or before April 1968. So basically, if you lived in Washington prior to 1968 and you were affected, basically black, or affected by covenants, right, and other racially restrictive housing policies, this would apply to you. It would also apply to the descendants of those people. The descendants of those people, so your children, your grandchildren, would all be eligible for this program, right? But they would have to be first-time home buyers, right?
And then, so can we define first-time home buyer?
Yeah, so,
So can we define first-time homeowners because you own the home, but you sold it, say you got divorced, you sold your home, and then you rented for 3 years.
right.
Year 4, you're considered a new first-time homeowner. So we need a clear definition of what first-time homeowner means.
So I'm not clear on that definition. So I think as we continue to dig into these various, laws and policies, we can figure out where are all the opportunities and where some of the loopholes. Right. So we wanted to make sure that we brought this up, that everybody was aware that this is something that was a new fund. We're going to be funding it off of real estate transaction fees. There'll be a $100 fee attached to every real estate transaction, similar to kind of standard closing costs. That will help fund this program. And I saw 2 questions. Somebody just stand up for one.
Right, I do just want to point out that it's actually House Bill 1474. The state bill number is correct. And the funds will be administered by the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. They're expecting the first bucket of funds to be available next summer, like July 2020.
So for those who didn't hear, the funds should be available by July 2024. The first round of funds should be available by July 2024. And then someone else. Yes. So my understanding, again, we have summaries on a lot of these legislation. My understanding is this should be applicable statewide. Statewide.
Why does it say at the bottom, the loan is due when the house is sold?
Okay, yeah, okay, that's important. Okay, so so I did read through. This is a summary, so I'm going to go back and do some recall. So forgive me if my information is not 100% accurate. It funds, for instance, closing costs. Right, so say for example, the closing costs on the purchase of your home is $50,000, right? It will cover that. What happens is that it is actually a loan, it's not a grant. It is not necessarily repayable like a traditional loan, but when you sell the house, that loan is due back to the state. So if you buy the house for $500,000, closing costs are $50,000. You go and you apply and you get that $50,000 from this program. For as long as you own the house, you're not paying on that loan. If you turn around and sell your house for $1 million, out of the proceeds of that sale, these funds will be reimbursed back to the state of Washington. No, you own the house. You own the house. Well, so look at it this way. So, say I'm selling a title company, and at the end of the entire process, I'm like, here's my bill for $35,000, right? Part of the closing costs. And so you own the house. This program is going to pay that $35,000, so you don't have to pay it. Just the closing cost. It's just the closing cost. Now that becomes. Anything else? Closing costs, down payments, all the things that are applicable for this program. Now, it is technically a loan. You don't have to pay it back, for instance, on a monthly basis or a yearly basis installments. As far as I understand, as far as sell the house.
Yeah.
Like a lien, yes, like a lien, or if anyone has sold a house, he said there's stuff attached to the title, like for instance, you know, a lien or something that attached to the title, things have to be clear, you know, they will be clear through escrow. And so, some of that stuff that will be paid before you even saw any money off the transaction. Yes.
If you know this, I don't know. So if you get this and you pass away, so I give it to my child, when they sell it, then they need to pay that back, or is it?
Good question.
Okay.
I don't know. The question, we're gonna put a pin in it.
Okay.
When we figure out who to ask about these things, we'll
And that's a great question. If y'all have more questions about things you want us to follow up on, please write a Post-it note and add it to one of the Post-its on the wall. What you want to learn more about, how we're doing, things of that nature. We really appreciate it. All right, I'm going to pass the mic up to Darren to announce our next speaker.
Let's give it up for the in-house research. The entire team at Case 21 is amazing, and these two in particular have been grinding around these questions that you all have. So it's real banana with these two. So thank you guys. Especially since I've been exceptionally ghost, but it's all fun. Anyways, I am going to introduce this brother that I met when he came in. He looks like his hair reminds me of Egyptian royalty, but that's because of the color blue. But before I do, I wanted to give you guys an additional resource. So when the African Town Community Land Trust folks, we talked about Rocket Lawyer, right, which is a free service online. Oh, it's a
Low-cost service online.
low-cost service online, okay. There is, I'm trying to think of how to just frame this really quickly. I have a friend who husband was tragically killed one afternoon on Lake Washington. He was riding his bike, ran into a car that turned in front of him, that was that. She said, like, the hardest part was getting into his electronic passwords, right? Trying to get certain things shut down, trying to handle business. There were things that they hadn't completed in their own wills, right? Because he died when our children were 5. That said, she ended up creating a whole project based on what she experienced. And it's a place online where you can get all of your information about a will, all of your information about like how to leave certain things, like how to just create the world you want your family to live in once you're no longer here. I'm gonna say the title. She also has a book, and she has traveled and talked about this. But she's local to Seattle, and the name of her website is called Get Your Shit Together. That's that on that. Okay? So I recommend it highly. It's incredibly helpful. There's stuff there you may see that you didn't even realize you need. And I know it gets really complicated when we have property. You know, because banks like to lean in and stuff when they think folks are no longer here. Anyhow,
What's her name?
her name is Chanel. Chanel, I think she is Latinx white passing. So I guess for, you know, I know this sounds so Seattle. She's biracial but Mexican. Okay. But Latino, right? She did. I forget Chanel, for some reason I forget her last name, but I pulled it up just to make sure that she was still running. And the last time I talked to her, she had just finished a book. So this is what the website looks like, but don't let her light skin fool you. She she understands this very intimately. And she said one of the most punishing things that she had to deal with on top of everything was that, was the insurance, was accessing all of his insurance. And he was a techie, so he had money. But anyway, so I just wanted to add that as a response. So next up is Mr. Jebediah Gardner. Now he is the founder of Gardner Global Incorporated. It was founded in 2009 with a focus on building wealth for those who have been traditionally excluded. As a real estate developer, Jebediah changes communities through mixed-use multifamily market rate, workforce, and affordable housing. He is also the author of Believe in Yourself, a guide for entrepreneurs and young professionals. Jebediah promotes being your best self alone and with others, and cultivating deep and lasting friendships and relationships. Jebediah introduced you to my son. He definitely needs to go like in this world. Jebediah was born in Los Angeles from Mexican and Black parents and has lived in the Pacific Northwest since his sophomore year in high school. Jebediah attended the University of Washington for his BA and earned a GED from Western Michigan University. Everybody, Mr. Jebediah.
Thank you very much. Happy Saturday, everybody. A couple facts. I was actually born in San Antonio, Texas. I was raised in South Los Angeles. And my mom is Mexican, my dad is black. Both my Mexican parents are very close. I speak fluent Spanish. So if you throw me into a bucket full of Latinos, I'm all good. All great. Anyways, thank you very much, Wari. Thank you, Inye, Francesca, and all those behind the scenes putting this event together. As a real estate expert professional, like information and education is super key. And so it's amazing to know that you guys are out here educating folks, because most of the time we miss the shit because we didn't know the ship arrived. We didn't even know there was a ship at the dock. By the time they tell us, we're like, I don't know where everybody go. So I really appreciate the work that you guys are all doing. And originally they asked me to talk about property taxes. I don't really have much to say other than pay them. Like it's hard. No one wants to pay them. We're just paying them. That's just one less thing they can mess with you about. Because we got enough in our lives being who we are. And that's just another thing that we have to deal with. So quick background as well. I did write a book. I forgot to bring them. Sometimes I forgot I wrote the book. But I self-published it 3 years ago. It's called Believe in Yourself. Business Essentials for the Millennial Entrepreneur. And really, I wrote that book to give an insight into a lot of the pain, the struggles, and really war stories of what it took to build a business, to build a real estate development company, because it wasn't easy. It'll be 15 years for me next March, so I'm in 14.5 years. Come on, like what? I moved to Seattle in '97, so I started my freshman year in high school. That was another fact. I went to Kennedy High School. I grew up in South LA, all public school, and then my dad lived here in Seattle. Decided to try to wash the hood out of me for original white Catholic private school. It didn't work though. It didn't work. They tried. Then you go to UW, they try to wash you out some more. And then law school, they really try to struggle. They really try to scuff black on people. But all I did was just take in the information that they gave me and leverage that to build my business and to give back where I could. And so here we are today. I'm going to fast forward a lot of things and just tell you where we are today, and then hopefully that prompts some questions, and then I'll give a little bit, a few insights or some cookies that I think that hopefully will be helpful in everyone's journey in maintaining their ownership and building and extending and and maintaining and all of that. Number one, we're all about building wealth. So I'm always hashtagging let's build wealth. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, let's build wealth. That's what we're about. 2009, I was like, how do I build a company around building wealth? Because my family's never seen it. We actually don't even know how to spell that word. So we have to figure out, because even us, W-E-E. Right? And so I wanted to really get to a space where mentally I understood what wealth was. How do you understand wealth? You don't come from it. You don't speak that language. You know, if you're not around other people. So there was a whole education process that I had to go through. And so I had to immerse myself around people who had it. And that is not an easy thing to do, especially if you don't look like it. So I had to seek out folks who looked like me, who had wealth, or who were building it. Then I had to be around people who did look like me, right? A lot of white folks, a lot of folks who had no relation or identity to our struggles whatsoever. And I had to just suck that up and just figure out where their mind was. And their mind is on themselves. And I can't be mad at that. Our mind should be on ourselves. And so I took kind of little bits and pieces of the game, so to speak, and then I sauced that up with my business model. I was like, well, how do I still be about ourselves but still give back? Because I feel like we can still do both. We can help yourself grow and still help others. But if I don't have anything to give, how am I supposed to give anything back? If I don't have any resources, how am I supposed to share resources with y'all? And so I had to be really selfish about how I build this business, right? And get to a space where I built a property management company first. And what that did was allow me to really understand how to take care of a property. And not only that, to take care of somebody else's property, which is even double the expectation, right? And then when you compound that, all of a sudden you have 200 properties that you're managing, and then start to understand how it works, how the contracting system works, who the best painters are, the best roofers, the best journeyman. You know, you start to tap in. So next time I needed something, I know exactly who's going to come, who I can call, and they're not going to take my shirt. You know, because that's what they do. You know, a lot of people just don't keep their word. It's pretty basic. And so I built a property management company out first, got an understanding of how things work, was able to build the brand a little bit. But my focus and my goal was always to be a developer, always to be able to buy land and build. Buy land, and what one of my mentors says, extract the value. Extract the value. The properties that you're sitting on, there's value there. Like, do you know how to extract it? Do you know how to pull that value out today? Or do you know how to pull it out tomorrow? And so I had to go through this 14-year journey of figuring that out. I'm still figuring it out. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm tripping all over the place. But I get back up. I get back up. And so a part of the journey for me was, how do I then build a property management company that then trains other Black and brown people, not just Jedediah understanding it, but train the next kind of tier of leadership? Because there's not a lot of real estate experts in our community. And so for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to be on this journey, I want to be on this journey with people who look like me and understands the pain that we've been through. And so my team is damn near all Black. I think other than my assistant, she's Latina. So for us, it's like, when people are like, oh yeah, you know, we're trying to, they always hit me up like this. Hey Jay, you know, we're really trying to put some diversity effort and hire more, BIPOC folks. And I'm like, why? Just do it.
Right.
Why are you asking me? Just do it. You act like we don't exist. It's so annoying when they do that. You have to go through a whole diversity committee. Why do you need a diversity committee? Just, if you want to hire a Black person, then hire a Black person. Kill me with this. Anyways, I mean a little too pragmatic sometimes, but it's just like, make it make sense. Like, it's not that difficult. Why are you overthinking when it comes to us? They always overthink like it's some mythical thing. How do we work with it? Just work with us. Whatever. So I take that and I just start kicking down all those doors, basically, and enforce their hand. And what that meant was, it's 2023, and I bought the entire holdings of Mount Calvary Christian Center. I bought the church, I bought the teen center across the street, and I bought all the Mike's properties next door. So But so sometimes I come to the city and I hang out at Taco Streeties or I go to a coffee shop or I go to Earl's and everyone's like, yo, Jay, did you really buy it though? No, I'm just walking around lying about the real estate I bought. But you know what they said? It's crazy. It's crazy. This is what they said. They said that really I was smoking mirrors in a front person for Uncle. Y'all heard the story. Niggas, I love this shit. Uncle likes to tenant. Because we rent check every month. I buy his property. So it's Ian Iceberg, my boy, the one everyone loves. He's a tenant. So it's actually the reverse. I gave Bishop Witherspoon $3.75 million for the church. I gave Bishop Witherspoon $2.3 million for his property, the teen center, cultural center. And I gave Paul Wright $2 million next door.
All right.
So let that myth be dispelled.
I can't wait to say that.
When you say the city is justified, the city is not enough black people, literally you have a black person standing there who owns like over an acre of land.
Thank you.
So it's not really going anywhere as long as I'm owning it. We have plans. We have plans for that property. If it wasn't for elders like Bishop Witherspoon, give me the opportunity to purchase, I wouldn't be in this position. Because there's also, as a younger person, I also can't access certain doors without your blessings.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And Bishop Witherspoon, he looked at me like, do you have $6 million for me? I said, well, not right now. But I'll find it. I'll get it. Give me the opportunity. And so I'm really thankful for Bishop Witherspoon because there were so many people he could have sold to that had cash in hand. He didn't have to sell it to me. Well, he wasn't going to sell it to me. He wasn't going to sell it to me. That wasn't happening. But there was other folks who looked like Uncle Ike who were ready. And so he stuck it out with me. So I just, for me, it's all about appreciation for the elders in our community, right? And that's the legacy piece, that's the building road piece, because what he did was he started a small cycle.
Yeah.
He sold the Jebediah and Garden Global. Jebediah is a black-owned real estate development company. Jebediah is going to build a 7-story apartment building on that property. Jebediah is going to rent out to black and brown people. Jebediah is going to rent out to black and brown businesses. Jebediah has black and brown investors who invested in that same project. Yeah. So I'm not the only one who knows it. I have a whole list of people who helped me raise the capital who own it with me, who look like me and me. So it's not just me going out trying to buy stuff. I'm not come from money. To be clear, I grew up in South LA. It is what it is. I had to figure out the system of the game and I had to figure out how to access it. And now that access point is here, it's all about maintenance. It's easy to start a business. It's easy to say you want to run a business. It is so hard to maintain it, right? And so that's kind of like what I want to be able to give a little bit back to our community. We say a lot of things, but like we got to focus on the maintenance piece. Like we can start something today, and then tomorrow what? Are you still working on this? Or did you give up? 2 years later, did you give up? 15 years later, 20 years later, a lot of my competition, my developers in Seattle, the folks who own buildings downtown, the folks who own buildings on 23rd and Union, they've been around 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, 3, 4, 5 generations. We're competing with generational wealth. I'm the first in my family ever to touch it in. Right? And so we got to think about it in terms of like how this long-term vision looks. So in addition to that, which we acquired, the property we put on 23rd Union, I also acquired 3 acres in Skyway. I don't know what's to be true, but I might be the largest black owner in Skyway. Because I only know what's I own 3 acres. And I'm trying to buy 27,000 more square feet right next door. So it is possible. And I'm going to continue to rise much more to say it is possible. Because James Brown said it, get some land like the man. And that's what we're gonna do. And if there's opportunity for me to create avenues for folks who also invest in those projects, then I'm gonna create that. And that's what we've been doing. I spun off a $10 million fund a year and a half ago because I needed capital to close on these properties, right? I don't have the money for it, but I have a network. And so what I did was build a whole real estate fund. I'm an attorney, I went to law school, I figured it out, and I hired lawyers smarter than me to build the fund. It costed a lot of money to build a fund. But when you want to start a business, you gotta put that money up. Believe in yourself. That's the title of my book. I had to believe in myself. And a year and a half later, I raised $5.7 million in that $10 million fund. And I purchased, I'm almost 4 acres deep in land in the CD the Skyway, it's nothing. And I'm under contract to buy some more land right there. So it is possible, it is doable, it is within reach. It's just this education piece is so key. And so I'm super thankful for you guys giving me a platform and an opportunity to share it, because I really think and believe that when you see people in spaces who look like us, it makes it that much attainable for us. It makes it that much more believable. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you for having me. If you have any questions, I'm open to questions at this point. But yes.
I see there's a demolishing sign on the church. So when you start demolishing?
Yeah, so we are in the process of getting our demolition permits, which is going to take some time. We won't demo the building for another year and a half. Yeah, so we have some time. Because when that sign went up, Bishop Witherspoon called me immediately. He was like, "You want to tear down my building? This is crazy." I was like, "No. But the city, they slapped us right in the front door of the congregation. It's the church." It's like, come on, people. So no, the church is not getting torn down anytime soon. It's a public. You talk about permits. We're going through a big permit process. And it's just letting the public know that this is coming down the road. So we called and we had to move the sign. Can you not put that in the front door? People in the church, it's the first thing they look at when they're walking. So yeah, we got another year and a half for that. Yes.
And for investors, what's the lowest amount so they can invest?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So our investment deck, we have it laid out as a $50K minimum. But I had to do that for a certain demographic to take my fund serious. But as the fund manager, I get discretion to bring people on as a under 80 amount. So I have people in the fund that are well below that 50K who look like us. You know, not everybody running around has 50K. And the whole point is called the multi-family access fund. The whole point is to create access. So I put that 50K minimum for them. But everything underneath that's for us. And so I gave folks an opportunity to come in and experience what it's like to be on this journey. And so now I send an investor out there. And when they drive by 20, 30 years, they get to say they own a piece of that too. Yeah. Right? And so that's the economic cycle that Garfield Community is about. Yes.
So we find success here with several activities that you have throughout the historically Black community. How are you going to scale that so that individual homeowners, I mean, everyone wants to say there's, anti-displacement and we don't want people to be displaced and we are fighting against gentrification, but how? Where's the action? I don't know where we go from here. And so as a developer who has had some success in acquiring real estate and has success in building a fund, is there any stretch of the imagination where individual homeowners can start to benefit from that? The amount of money that it would take for, it would be a de minimis amount of money for the homeowners that are sitting in this room to, build and develop on their existing property. And so how come nobody is doing something like that? And if nobody's doing something like that, do you see a future where your projects are scaled or opportunities are scaled to start to improve some of that?
Yeah, great questions. So I'll try to pull it apart a little bit. Number one, I would say trust. It is not easy for us to trust each other. And I'm speaking from experience because I solicited to Black people saying, I have a fund, would you like to invest? And they're like, oh yes. I said, I'll access it. I'll build Black wealth. Oh yeah, Jay, send me the deck, send me the deck. We better, hey, did you check with the deck? Hello? Did you check with the deck? Week later, sent an email, hey, just following up. Crickets. Week later, crickets. I'm like, damn. Okay, well, I made the effort. And then I go talk to some other folks outside our community. And they're like, that sounds interesting, Jay. Okay, yeah, send me the notes. Hey, how's it doing? Hey, I reviewed it. Just talk to my legal, I'll invest. Why is everybody but us investing in the fund? We don't trust each other. Got it. So that's just the work we all gotta do, right? Can't point fingers. We've been through so much that they ain't gone through. Right. Right? So for me, it's just like, how do I just make sure I keep the door open? And if folks choose to, great. If they don't, great. But don't say I didn't leave the door open. You know what I mean? And so to answer your question, when we start to build that trust in each other, and trust and money, that's totally, you talking about, you gonna put in 5K, she gonna put in 5K, she gonna put in 5K, 25K. Now it's a business relationship. Yeah. Who's trusting who and who's managing, who's opening the account, like our community isn't accustomed to doing business that way because they've did what they did. So we gotta start working on that trust factor and exposure. And events like this is super helpful because it puts all on the road and we all continue to talk to each other and start building that trust. And we start, you don't have to invest a whole bunch of money at one time. Start with $100 and see where it goes. I mean, $100 this person in this room, that's $1,000. I guarantee you, I'll find a place to invest that $1,000. Yeah. Guaranteed. So trust is a big factor. And also, it takes a lot. It sounds easy to have a single family home and I want to build on it, an ADU or a DADU. It actually does take a lot of money. And the city is not really trying to help. So what could look like a $50,000 project will turn into $100,000 because you're waiting on the city to give you permits and your contractor doesn't show up on time and all these things. And so there's a lot of risk involved. And unless you have someone with experience and knows how to manage the construction, then you're like, damn, I'm gonna put all this money in. Now you're the one buffing floors and you're the one, nail gunning studs. So it takes a lot. So I would say the answer is continued education like this. What Walmart is doing, giving you information on what's going on at the state level and the city level, is huge. And it's a matter of just maximizing that information. Go ahead.
I was really more leaning towards, that's why I asked about the scale. I was really more leaning towards how do you leverage you're the big dog right now. You just said the largest real estate developer, African American real estate developer, and certainly the largest one that I know so far in this area. So if that's the case, how do we begin to also make this a philanthropic conversation? How do we begin to leverage? I'm just saying leverage, creating some smaller funds or something like that could be accessible, or at least put some pressure on the powers that be that know how to develop this so that there's some mobility for the single family home. Because right now, there's absolutely zero in the city, as you all know, any kind of the audacity of them to offer us subsidized rental, to come back to the city possibly. Maybe you might be lucky enough to get one for the buildings that aren't built yet. But anyway, having 60%, 80% AMI is ridiculous for anybody to even think they can rent in Seattle for that. Is not okay. So for someone like you that has the knowledge, how do you do one tangible, actionable step to help like I said, scale some of the knowledge that you know across broader spectrums of individual homeowners, and then especially the funding piece. That's the part that, yes, we can have educational events, but I've been attending educational events for the last 8 years-ish, and it's usually education and outreach. And there's lots of folks in the community getting paid to do that. But what are the tangible next steps that get finances to help people build generational wealth in the city? I'm 5th generation in this community, and I'm barely holding on to my house, and really there's no incentive for me to stay. And many of you probably saw me in the newspaper, and I'm the one still in the city. Regarding NHA. So anyway, the point is, what is the next tangible step to start to build that generational wealth and show a united front to those government agencies that are supposed to take our tax dollars and give it back to us? Right.
So there's no silver bullet, and every scenario and every household is different. But I will say this: for me, it's leading by example. It's leading by example. And when folks come into my office and they're like, "Well, how did you do it?" As long as they look like us, I'll tell you. There's no secret. There's no secret sauce. I'm just doing the same thing they did. I just had to just work 20 times harder to figure it out. But there's a formula. Just like any business, tech business, nonprofit, art, there's a formula. And I had to learn the formula. So for me, it's leading by example and teaching the next generation to me, right? So I got a staff full of 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds right now, and they're hungry. As long as they stay hungry, I'll keep feeding them. If you want to know how to do it. And I will say, for example, one of my project managers, African-American kid out of Wazoo, he bought his first home, 25. Because he was sitting back watching, observing the game. And I was telling him how I'm talking to these lenders and investors and leveraging the investor capital. Because banks don't want to talk to you unless you got money, right? I said, "Got money, they want to talk to you." So I had to go get the money. And then they're like, "Oh, Jay." I'm like, "Yeah, he picked up on that." And he was able to repeat it at a small scale about a home into home. And he started to build this process. So for me, it's leading by example, and there's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. It's just your way. I just did I'm doing what I have to do. Period. And if that means running over somebody, then you should probably move out the way. Because we have to get somewhere. And it's been 200-300 years of us being prevented from getting there. And I'm not going to wait another generation for me to get there. And so for me, it's just, I'm passionate and I love this business because it's more about my family and my folks, right? And seeing things we've never seen before. And so, leading by example is something that, I can only show and prove, right? And when it comes to kind of like the tangible next steps, it's hold strong and stay firm. Because at the end of the day, the last person standing is going to win. That's why they never settle, right? And so it's hard and it's like painful, but just hold on, And I've been on that boat. The turbulence is all can be, and been broken down to my knees, staring myself in the mirror like I should just give up. This is hopeless. And I just got back up and just figure out a way to keep it, figure out a way to build, and you start expanding your network because when you don't come from resources, you got to find it somewhere else. And so you got to be able to be open to expand your mind, to start talking to other people, to start opening those resources. So I know it's probably not a direct answer to your question, but I'm hoping that staying firm, leading by example, and not thinking on some get rich quick mentality, because that's what a lot of us are on. If you're getting your real estate information or investment information from Instagram or Twitter, stop it. Because there's people right here in our city who you can talk to who can give you the game. We've really done it. So hopefully that answers a little bit of it. Yes.
Sorry, I'm not here where to start. With the part about people when they move in and how we have to look at equity versus getting this little low-income apartment, right? And that's what I understand. One thing that I run into is also the opportunity where you're like, I have a 25-year garage house. Most people aren't getting more than $400,000 on a loan approval. And so 5 years. And what I would pray is that as much as you're thinking about low income, rates for folks, bring them back into the community, also think about people like who can afford a condo. Yeah. And who want to buy a condo. Because I am almost everybody knows me, and I'm very at home. And so I don't need to go leave the neighborhood if I don't have to. But on the other hand, I would much rather have a nice condo for a little family that I have in the moment than like a big old house to manage. Because I can rent out that and stay in the neighborhood. But I don't want to leave the neighborhood just to pay somebody that never lives in a apartment. So if you want to build townhouses,
well, there's some state technicality. There's a reason why you don't see condos.
they don't need a money.
What's that?
Need a money. Those are the things we have to fight about.
Yeah, well, there's state law in place, and that state law is, and it's just not just applicable to me. It's applicable to every single developer in the state. There's a reason why you don't see condos being built in large production, and that's because the state law is keeping developers on the hook 5 years after the project's done for any liability. And developers don't want that. After they build call it a 10-unit condo building, maybe it's a 10-unit townhome HOA condo community. 4 years later, 4.5 years later, if there's a leak in your roof, if there's a defect in the construction, 4.5 years later, you can legally go to the developer and sue them for that. Developers don't want that, so why are they gonna do it? They like, I forgot about that project. Who's suing you? 4.5 years later, I gotta deal with a $3 million lawsuit. I thought it was done. So this state law is in place, and it doesn't incentivize developers to build condos. Whether that's right or wrong, everyone has an argument. As a developer, I'm like, we gotta relax that. And what will happen is you'll see more condos go up, right? And so that's the reason why there's not a lot of condos in Seattle, because developers don't want to take the risk. And outside of developers, contractors who ultimately will have to carry that bag, they're the ones who really get sued. They won't even build a condo for you. So I talked to contractors and said, hey, I'm thinking about a condo project. They're like, I ain't building that. Because 4 or 5 years later, someone will sue us. We don't want to liability. So there's some interesting things at the state level that's going on to kind of change that. Once that kind of becomes relaxed, then you'll see a lot more of that happening. But we got to be on the front lines of that.
The prayer would be, when we all look at the prayer board, that you find a contractor who is willing to do 5 years. Because nobody wants to buy something that can't handle 5 years of wear and tear. But also, you know what I mean? You're be able to hold it for at least 5 years. That's the problem. A contractor that doesn't believe in 5 years worth of their hard labor, and they don't believe in their own warranty 5 years, that's what's
For sure.
I'm afraid you find the right one.
Yeah, it goes both ways, right? Like, I see it both ways. But for us right now, we're creating investment opportunities into our housing stock. So we'll build market rate, we'll build affordable. We don't do low income. We do market rate, we do affordable. So workforce folks. Folks who got jobs, and they're like, damn, I don't make enough. We're gonna be able to rent to those folks, right? And then honestly, to be frank, like, I don't like people running from me. That's reparations for me. I'm building with them. Cut the shit. Rent's late. Send me 3-day notice for vacate. I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean. I'd much rather I'd much rather create the opportunity for us to invest in the back end and have them pay us and return that money to the back end. Because that's what they've been doing. That's what they are doing. And I'm just on a very small scale, just trying to create that loop for us. So, any other questions? Yes.
You said you bought the property 2030 unit.
I didn't buy the lease shop, I bought the office. So his little sign is, where it's like you pass across the street, next door to the Joshua Center. Sorry, directly across the street from the car wash.
Okay, so the church and then across the street. That is fine.
Yeah, he ain't letting go of that. I asked him about that.
So what are you gonna do with it?
Do with,
How are you gonna develop it?
yeah, so we'll do a 7-story building, 150 units on the church site. And then on the church site, parking lot in the church, 7-story, 150+ units, mixed income, market rate, affordable. And then we'll do a 5-story building, 120+ units or so, where the Joshua Teen Center is, that parking lot building, and then Uncle Ike's parcel that he rented from me. That's fun for me to say. That site will assemble, and that will be a 5-story building, 120+ units. So we'll have about 100, and that building will be 100% affordable at 80% of the AMI. And I forgot a big detail, and the reason why I was able to buy that property is because I got a $4.1 million investment from Amazon. And I took that Amazon money and I put it right there, and I invested in that property. And
But
so,
is it Amazon workforce housing though?
no, it has nothing to do with Amazon. It has to do with, no, they gave, the only thing I have to do is make sure that the units don't go above 80% of the AMI. So the 120+ units, 100% of those units, so 120+ of those will be at 80% of AMI or lower. That building will be basically traditional affordable housing. The building across the street will be mixed income.
So we're just building generational rentals.
What's that?
We're just building generational rentals now.
I'm building generational wealth for people who invest in my projects, who are going to eat off the back of it.
The people who will live there would just be generational rentals.
They can live there for as long as they want. And ideally, they're able to take that subsidy and build on it, right? And so that's the goal. But for the folks who've invested in me, they're seeing returns off those checks. That's the goal. It's longer term, bigger picture, and to provide housing for folks who traditionally wouldn't be able to even live in the city. Yes.
Perhaps you would consider doing rent to own.
Oh, trust me. Trust me. What we call it lease. We have a project, we like to call it lease to purchase. So we're already there, trust me. I don't speak about it though because there's just some really interesting conversations around that. So I don't show my hand all the time. But we are already there. And trust me, please believe, when we roll that out, our folks are going to be the first to know. So we there. I thought I saw one. All right. Yeah.
A lot of the stuff.
That's the questions.
Okay. A lot of the stuff you said resonated with me about like the trust in our community. As someone who's raised capital, not only like on the front end with acquiring money, but then also on the back end of like getting calls like, hey, like, where's my money at? What's going on? Can I help with this? And it's very hard and tedious. And like you said, white money can slide easier. So there's definitely that balance of keeping all in there. I have a question. I have a lot of questions about your capital stack, but how did you get Black people from our community into the fund? Like, 'cause I know there's like laws that say under a certain amount you can't get in. So how did you get them into that?
Without going into too much detail, my favorite question. So I'm governor of the SEC right now. Right. The SEC has built money from other people. You're basically selling security. So you're governor of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So what that means is there's several types of funds you can raise. There's crowdfunding, which everyone's probably familiar with, right? That's a separate kind of fund governed under the SEC. Basically means you can raise money from whoever, do whatever. The type of fund I raise is called a 506B raise. What that means is I can't solicit to you because I don't know you. I can only solicit to people who know me or ask me about it or in close proximity. Now, that fund, 506B, they tell me that I cannot take on any investors who are not accredited. Right? You have to make $1 million, you have to have $1 million net worth, and you have to make $250,000 for the past 5 years. Otherwise, you're not accredited and you cannot invest in a generalized fund. Well, what does that do for us? So what did I do? I found an exception to that rule. It's called Regulation D and allows me to take up to 35 unaccredited investors in my fund. And I'm up to about 35 unaccredited investors in my fund. So they don't have to meet this threshold that the SEC says. It's an exception. It's an exception to the rule. And I found that, and I pointed it to my attorney, and I was like, do that. That's what we're doing, and that's allowed me to bring on investors who are not accredited. Now, you gotta be careful because, you know, the stigma is that because you're not accredited, you're really more litigious investor. Meaning that you're not accredited, which means that you're gonna be the person who's more liable to sue. You're the person who would be like, where's my money? Like, and I was like, so basically, it's a very disrespectful comment. So basically what you're saying is like, I want to solicit to black and brown folks, but you're saying that because they're not accredited, they're gonna be the ones who are gonna be suing me? $5 grand, $6 grand, $10 grand? I was like, these who's invested $100 grand, he's not someone who's gonna come after me. There's no empirical data that says because we're black and brown and unaccredited means we're gonna be more likely to sue. I mean, that's stupid. I was like, get out of here. So I had to push my whole legal team to get out of that. My lawyer was like, they're the ones that are gonna sue. And I'm like, I ain't worried about 5K. Are you serious? No. So I was like, stop it. So that's how I did it. I found an exception to the rule. You gotta read the fine print to make it happen, to make that doorway to access.
Are you investing if you're unregulated? No.
What's that?
No.
You only have
35. And I'm not filling up to 35. I'm only doing maybe 15. Last question.
No, I was gonna ask the question about ready to buy. Because I was just in New York and the apartments, they've created into co-ops. And the renters are owners of the apartment, and when they leave, they can sell them.
Yeah, I don't like the co-op model. That's just me. It don't really do what I want it to do, which is build remote. It's so strict. The co-op model is very, very strict. It's great. We need all the models. We need land trusts, we need the co-ops, we need the market rate, we need all the models. For the work we're doing, co-op doesn't maximize the full wealth bag that we're after. We're after, you know, we want people to realize the full value of whatever it is, whether it's the home or the fund or the apartment. And the co-op model is great for certain instances, but for the long term, it kind of cuts a limit on effect of what they can use to grow. So, but we need them all. We need them all. So we're here for it. We're in support. Okay, I think that's it. I talked to everyone's here on Saturday. Thank you so much for having me on the line. I appreciate all y'all beautiful black people, and hope to see y'all around.
Thank you so much, Jebediah. I'm just gonna have Ian come on to do closing remarks. And cards for Jebediah. We will email out on that information.
Okay, so we are, hello everybody. Hello. So we're gonna be continuing these conversations. What about the whole spectrum of taxation? We want people to really understand what's going on with all the policies that apply to their homes. I think what we saw today was a really interesting conversation and an opportunity for people to start to think differently around the possibilities of what we can do together. You know, at some point, we might want to pivot and start thinking about what would it look like if 4 or 5 of us got together and started a fund ourselves, right? Using the equity that we have in the properties that we already own, and using that as a baseline for people to come in and invest in the vision that we have. So I think that might have been what Jebediah was trying to hint at, is that, you know, he has a formula, he has an understanding of how the systems and the laws work around forming these structures. They can apply in a number of different ways. He's applying it in one way. The question is, can we imagine other ways to apply those same laws to benefit us based on the assets and the wealth that we already have? The work we're doing at One Mark is really about getting together and getting to a point where we can have those creative conversations. We want to have creative conversations about what's possible. That is the entire mission of 101, right? The specific mission of Case 21 is having creative conversations about the possibilities of the assets that we already own, right? So as we move forward, as we're creating a baseline knowledge about how the existing system works, right? When we have an opportunity to meet people like Jedediah, an opportunity to meet people like Caleb, we want to be thinking about, okay, what am I learning today that I can take and flip, right? And create something new. We all have the possibility of creating something new. That's the work that we're doing in Wanawari. That's the work we're doing in Case 21. Please let other people know. We'll be having another gathering in the fall. Our goal is to have 3 or 4 dinners per year. This year we'll have 3, another one in October, based on how things go. You know, our calendar for 2024 will probably publish that sometime in January or February. But we want to see some momentum and some growth around these ideas. We just don't want to come and talk about them and come in and talk about something else next time we get together. We want to actually build on the things that we've done previously. So we appreciate y'all coming out. Love to see y'all's faces repeatedly. Hope to see you again. Bring somebody else next time. And make sure you won't do it on Sunday afternoon next time. So we can have more people in the house.